They say beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder, but what if the beholder is blinded by pride? My daughter learned that lesson in the hardest way possible. Before we begin, please take a second to subscribe and stay with me till the end of this story. It's one that will touch your heart and remind you that kindness always wins. I still remember that summer morning like it happened yesterday. The sun was bright, the birds were singing, and my daughter, Emma, sat on the porch with her paints spread across the wooden table. Her little hands were covered in colors, her face glowing with joy. She was only 12, but she had a way of turning blank canvases into magic. Emma wasn't like other kids in the neighborhood. While they played games or watched TV, she would paint for hours. She said it made her heart feel light. She didn't paint to impress anyone. She painted because she loved it. Every color told a story. Every stroke spoke from her heart, but not everyone saw it that way. Our neighborhood was run by a homeowners association, the HOA, and the woman who ruled it was Karen. You know the type. Perfect hair, sharp eyes, and a mouth that never rested. She had an opinion about everything. The color of your door, the length of your grass, even the number of flowers in your garden. Karen loved control, and she hated anything different. One afternoon, Emma decided to hang a few of her paintings on our white fence. She wanted to add a little color to the street. There were soft blue skies, pink blossoms, and golden fields, scenes that made you feel peace inside. I remember standing there watching her smile as she clipped each painting gently in the breeze. Then Karen showed up. Her heels clicked on the pavement like warning bells. She crossed her arms, tilted her head, and stared at the fence as if Emma had committed a crime. "What is this supposed to be?" she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Emma froze. Her brush trembled in her tiny hand. "It's my art," she whispered softly. Karen laughed. A cold, sharp laugh that made the air feel heavy. "This isn't art, dear. It's a mess. You can't just hang junk outside for everyone to see. It makes the whole neighborhood look unrefined." I could feel the anger rise in my chest, but I took a deep breath. Emma's eyes filled with tears and my heart broke right there. She looked at her paintings, her heart on canvas, and slowly began to take them down. Karen smirked and walked away, heels clicking like victory drums. That night, Emma didn't touch her paints. She sat quietly by the window, staring at the empty fence. The house felt colder somehow. I tried to comfort her, but she just said, "Maybe my paintings really are ugly." Those words crushed me. How do you tell your child that beauty doesn't need permission? How do you explain that one cruel voice shouldn't silence your gift? So, I told her a story of Van Gogh, who was mocked for his work, who sold only one painting in his lifetime, yet became one of the most loved artists in history. "Emma," I said, "art isn't about approval. It's about truth, and your truth is beautiful." She smiled faintly that night, but her brushes stayed dry. Days passed, then weeks. Her paints began to dry up in their jars. I thought maybe she had given up for good. But one evening I came home from work and smelled paint again. The scent filled the house like sunlight after rain. I followed it to the garage, and there she was. Emma was painting on the old wall inside. Her strokes were bold, her colors deep. She had painted a field of sunflowers, stretching toward the sky. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, watching her reclaim her happiness. When she noticed me, she smiled shyly and said, "Dad, maybe I'll just keep painting here." "The garage doesn't have Karen." I laughed through tears. "The garage doesn't need to approve, sweetheart. The world will find your art when it's ready." Little did I know how true that would be, because that wall, that hidden, quiet wall, would one day change everything. That wall became her world, Every day after school, Emma would head straight to the garage, her little apron covered in dried paint. She didn't need an audience. She didn't need approval. She just needed her brushes, her colors, and her quiet. Weeks turned into months, and the garage wall transformed into something magical. There were fields of flowers, oceans that stretched forever, and faces so full of feeling that they almost breathed. Every inch of that wall told a story. Her story. Sometimes I'd sit nearby, pretending to fix tools just so I could watch her. The way her hand moved, gentle yet certain, reminded me of peace I hadn't felt in years. There was something sacred in how she painted. One evening, as the orange light of sunset poured through the small window, Emma looked at me and said, "Dad, do you think anyone will ever like my art?" I smiled and said softly, "You don't paint for people to like it, sweetheart. You paint because your heart has something to say." She thought for a moment and then nodded, as if she finally understood. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. It was around Christmas when the HOA decided to do their yearly inspection. Karen, as usual, led the charge. She had a clipboard, a camera, and that same sharp smile that could slice through glass. When she reached our driveway, she stopped. The garage door was half open, and Emma was inside, painting snowflakes on a window pane. Karen peeked in, and her face twisted into that familiar mix of judgment and annoyance. "What is this?" she said, stepping inside like she owned the place. "You've turned your garage into some kind of art shack? This isn't acceptable!" The HOA rules clearly state. I cut her off gently. "Karen, this is our garage." "She's not hurting anyone," Karen scoffed. "It's still a violation. Paint splatters, odd smells, and who knows what else. This is a neighborhood, not a street fair." Emma froze again. I could see her eyes fill with the same fear from before. The fear of being mocked, of being small. But this time I stepped closer to Karen. "With all due respect," I said, keeping my voice calm, "you can't control creativity. You can control lawns, fences, and trash cans, but not a child's dream." Karen glared at me, her lips thin and cold. "We'll see what the board says." Then she left, slamming the clipboard shut like a threat. That night, Emma didn't cry. She just kept painting. I realized then that she was stronger than before. She had grown through the pain, but I didn't know that Karen had taken pictures of Emma's work, and sent them to every member of the HOA, claiming our home was an eyesore. The next morning, there was a letter taped to our door. A warning. They wanted us to remove all unapproved art projects within 10 days or face a fine. When Emma saw the letter, her shoulders dropped. "They hate my art, Dad," she whispered. I looked at her, my little girl, holding that paper like it weighed 100 pounds, and something inside me broke. "No," I said firmly. "They don't get to decide what beauty is." So that weekend I came up with an idea. I took pictures of Emma's paintings, every single one on that garage wall, and posted them on social media. I didn't write much, just a few lines. "Our HOA says my daughter's art makes the neighborhood look bad. What do you think?" I hit post and didn't think much of it. But within hours, everything changed. The comments started pouring in. "Her work is beautiful. Your daughter has real talent. Tell her never to stop painting." By the next morning, the post had thousands of likes and shares. Local artists commented. Teachers offered encouragement. Even a small art gallery reached out asking to display her work. When I told Emma, her eyes widened in disbelief. They like it?" she said softly. I nodded, smiling through tears. "They love it." That night, Emma didn't just paint. She danced while she painted. The color seemed brighter, her laughter louder. It was like watching a flower bloom again after a storm, and for the first time Karen had to watch too, because the story had spread across the whole neighborhood. People began driving by our house not to complain, but to see Emma's garage wall. Some even left little notes saying how her art made them smile. Karen didn't say much after that. She just watched from her window, lips tight, as the same eyesore she hated became the pride of the street. But that was just the beginning. A few weeks later, a local news reporter showed up at our door. He'd seen the viral post and wanted to interview Emma. She was shy at first, hiding behind me, but I whispered, "Just tell them why you paint." She looked into the camera and said in her gentle voice, "I paint because it makes me happy. I don't want to make things perfect. I just want them to feel real." That single line, that simple truth, touched thousands of hearts. The story spread farther, reaching people who saw beauty in her courage. Within months, Emma's art was displayed in her first gallery show, small but full of warmth. People came, not because she was famous, but because they saw something pure in her work. Karen didn't attend the show, of course. But later she sent a short note in the mail. "I may not understand art, but I can see your daughter has a gift. Congratulations." I showed it to Emma. She smiled and said, "Maybe she's learning too." And I realized, sometimes, even the coldest hearts can soften when they see light shining long enough. It's been many years since that summer when Karen mocked Emma's paintings. Time has a funny way of showing us what really matters. Emma is no longer that shy 12-year-old with trembling hands. She's a grown woman now, a professional artist whose paintings hang in galleries, hospitals, and even schools across the country. Her art has touched people she's never met, healed hearts she'll never know, and reminded the world that beauty can grow even in the hardest places. But I still remember where it all began. That small garage wall, that single moment of courage, and that laughter that turned into silence for a while. The first time one of her pieces sold, I cried, not because of the money, but because I remembered the little girl who once thought her art was ugly. I remembered the way Karen's words had crushed her spirit, and how Emma had painted anyway. That's what made her special. She didn't paint to prove anyone wrong. She painted because her soul refused to stay quiet. A few years later, something unexpected happened. Our town held a community art festival, and Emma was invited to be the guest of honor. Her work was displayed at the very center of the event, the same neighborhood where she had once been mocked. When she walked on stage, I could see how nervous she was. Her voice trembled a little when she spoke, but her words carried a strength that silenced the crowd. "I started painting in my dad's garage," she said. "Back then, some people told me it wasn't good enough. But my dad told me that real art isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest. So if you have something inside you, a dream, a song, a story, a color, don't hide it. The world needs it." There was a long pause. Then the crowd stood up and clapped. Some even wiped their tears. And that's when I saw her, Karen. She stood at the back, holding a small bouquet of flowers. Her face had softened over the years. The sharpness was gone. When the applause died down, she slowly walked toward the stage. Emma noticed her, and for a moment, the two of them just stared at each other. The woman who had once broken her confidence, and the girl who had risen above it. Then Karen said quietly, "I came to say I was wrong. Your art isn't a mess, it's beautiful." Emma smiled gently. "Thank you," she said. "It took me a long time to believe that." Karen handed her the flowers and whispered, "You taught me something, that sometimes the things we don't understand are the ones we need the most." I don't know if Karen changed completely after that day, but I do know this: kindness has a strange power. It can melt even the hardest heart when given time. After the festival, people from nearby towns began visiting Emma's studio. She was invited to paint murals in schools and hospitals, brightening walls that once felt cold. Her paintings weren't just art, they were hope in color form. And that old garage? It's still there. She never painted over the wall. She says it reminds her of where she started. Every time I visit, I still see the sunflower she painted years ago. Tall, golden, and full of life. Sometimes I stand there alone and whisper, "You did it?" Kiddo. People often ask Emma how she found the courage to keep going when someone mocked her. She always says the same thing, because one person believed in me, my dad. But the truth is, she taught me more than I ever taught her. She showed me that no matter how small you feel, no matter how harsh the world gets, light always finds a way to shine through the cracks. So, if you're listening to this and you've ever been told that your dreams don't matter or your art isn't good enough, remember Emma. Remember the little girl who was told her paintings were junk and ended up painting her name into the world's heart. Because beauty doesn't ask for permission. It simply exists, quietly, bravely, and forever. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs a reminder that dreams never grow old. And don't forget to subscribe for more true emotional stories that prove, no matter your age, it's never too late to start believing again.